Hey, this is Jarrah from Support Carry Zilean, and today I'd like to talk to you about my experiences in patch 8.4 and moving forward into 8.5, which is a smaller patch. Talking about what has worked for me, what hasn't worked for me, and kind of how the game has changed in that way. So to break it down, we're going to be talking about utility item changes, the damage item changes, and how the game is played now. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is utility items, and this is the same build as always, where you have a lot of flexibility in what kind of supportive items you want to go, whether that being Mikhail's Crucible, Redemption, Locket of the Iron Solari, or Ardent Sensor, whichever one you choose to go first. I have had the best success in my mid to high platinum games with just powering up my teammates, whether it's keeping the hyper carry alive or just amping them up to basically your Ardent Sensor gives them an extra 0.5 of an item. Just these little things help you turn the team fights to get them even stronger and snowball. Usually you have a lot better time when you're in the mid game rather than trying to either poke out the enemies or just run away with the game because you are just blowing everybody up through damage. That hasn't worked out for me very well. So I would say in Platinum, Elo, Platinum and up, utility is still the most consistent of all the builds. And that's just because your teammates will be more able and prepared to carry the game, and you're just there making them have the easiest time to carry as possible. So then I'd like to talk about the AP item changes, and there were a lot of them, but the general theme is that all these AP item changes increased the price of everything. So what Zilean wants to get is mana and cooldown reduction very early in the game, which is what BaronElder did in previous to this patch. Now your best option is to rush an Archangel's Staff. So that takes a tier and a lost chapter and one more item, I don't know what it is. But it costs 3,300 gold and it gives you 20% CDR and all that stuff. So you do want that to be your first item if you are going AP build as a support. And your first item you will want to take is Lost Chapter instead of tier. And that's just because you get more out of the Lost Chapter than you do with the tier. Even though the tier stacks up quicker, you still get more damage and more cooldown reduction out of the book. And whenever you level up, you get 20% back, 20% of your maximum mana back. So that's pretty good. So that's what you want to pick up. In the games I played, I was normally completing my Archangels around, or just finish buying it probably around the 16 to 20 minute mark, I'd say. So it is pretty late in the game, and if you do go the utility build, you still have like an item and a half lead over this one. The next item I'd like to talk about is Morello. It was changed, so it no longer gives you that mana and cooldown reduction. It gives you a bunch of AP, some health, and a passive that whenever you deal damage, you apply Grievous Wounds. I don't really like the item anymore. There are some Zileans who've had good luck with it. It's less of a support Zilean item and more of a mid lane item. I think you're better off with a Luden's Echo instead, or the new Leandri's Torment is okay, but none of these items really kind of stand out. It's worth noting that some of the higher Elo Zileans in Korea, I want to say in the high diamond ones there, the Zilean players, they go and they do one AP item, whether it's Morello Nomicon or it's the Archangel Staff. They build that as their first item, and then they go straight into utility, whether it's the Redemption or the Locket. They pick that up next. They don't continue getting more damage just because Zilean's kit is so powerful. You don't need to have all this extra AP to really work it out. So in my experience, I won like 20% of the games where I just said I'm going full AP, and it just didn't work out for me. The playstyle was very aggressive still, but I felt that I wasn't able to contribute as much to the team. I was more focused on dealing damage, less focused on keeping people alive and looking for just picks and that kind of thing, or just more focused on damage rather than warding. So that's just kind of a fallacy that I fell into there. So the last thing I'd like to talk about is the change to objectives, because it does change the dynamic of how the game is played, and it does add a lot of value to Zilean because of his revival. So what happened in 8.4 is they buffed up Baron and Elder Dragon because they wanted games to have finality. So when you get a Baron after, I want to say, 28 minutes, it is empowered, so the creeps do even more damage, and you can augment that damage with Banner of Command. And if you are being sieged with Baron and a bannered minion, it is insanely tough to deal with it. It will 10-shot your towers, so you have about 25 seconds to get this thing dead, and you can't deal magic damage to it. It has to be physical. You have about 25 seconds to kill this thing, or it takes your tower, and while they're just sitting back there waiting for you to engage. So you need to be mindful of how you can use that as a champion or play against it. How do you play against it? Do you need to keep your initiator alive? Are you the one who buys the banner of the command for the team? Does your top lane have a carry? Or is your jungle not itemizing into that? These are things that you need to keep in mind. And you'll have a pretty good idea of how the game is going. How good are you guys at objective control? It should depend on, do you go the banner or do you go something else to keep your team alive? So if your team falls behind, it's not very advantageous to buy a banner. But if you guys are ahead, you can buy the banner, get the Baron, and then just start sieging like crazy. The games should end pretty quickly. The next one I'd like to talk about is the Elder Dragon. It was buffed up to have an insane duration when you get the second one, so if so the more coordinated teams, they'll plan to kill the last dragon, you know, just so it spawns at Elder at, I think, like 35-30 or some time around there. And they'll exploit that. They'll really try and move to get vision and control over the Elder Dragon, because the first one's just like the old one. Still does an extra burn that is multiplied by how many other dragons you have, increases their buffs. It's still a scary buff, but it's the second one that ends the game, because the buff lasts for 5 minutes and does even more damage, so you just really need to watch out, and it is a very important objective to contest, especially if it is the second one. You will fight tooth and nail over that, and then your job as Zilean is to keep whoever needs to be alive, whether it's a carry or a smite or an initiator, to get them to waste their ultimates. Your job is to just figure that out and keep it alive so that you come out on top of the fight, you can secure the objective, and then you just either push or you defend, just because of that. So Zilean does have a great place in this meta. I'd like to wrap up by saying he's in a fantastic spot. He's probably like an A- support right now. We are in a land of hyper carries, and Zilean does do an excellent job protecting them. There are kind of tank initiators that are starting to spring up, but the poke champs are out. The all-in champs, they're not really there. It's all about surviving lane, making it to mid, securing objectives, and closing out the game. So this is the optimal environment for Zilean as a support to just go. And yeah, but that's going to wrap this up. So thank you very much for watching. I have updated the Support Carry Zilean website for the new items that came out in 8.4. If you've been looking for that, sorry, it's just taking me a little extra time to do some research and test some things out. So it's all up to date. I probably won't do a video in 8.5 just because it is a very small patch and I didn't see any real significant changes. They're mostly just champion adjustments. And so that's going to be it for me. I'll see you in 8.6. There are going to be some support item changes where they're tinkering with what you get as a reward or how you proc tribute, that kind of thing with Spell Thieves. And then they're also changing up Iron, Lock It to be Iron Solari, which is going to create a huge bubble, so that'll be interesting. We'll have to see how that goes. I feel like it'll be overpowered when it first drops. So that's it for me. Thank you guys for watching, and you have a wonderful day.